Hello again, YouTube. So last video I covered some platforming mechanics and fixed some bugs in my program. And in this video, I've basically taken that idea a lot further. So before I look into any of these resource folders and show you all that's changed, I'm just going to show you by running the game itself. So if we just run the game here, it'll take a second to load, and bam. So we're falling. And yeah, so no longer do we have a terribly made stick figure as our character. We have this hooded figure with cyan eyes. As you can see, the background is like this big blue gradient for the sky. It gets more and more blue the further you go up. Alright, so as you can see, there's like this village here with some houses. I can jump around. Really, I've made a lot of changes, and this is going to be my structure for videos to come, which is that I'm going to make a ton of changes to a game, and then I'll spend like a couple episodes explaining how to do that. Rather than just coding things on the spot, I'm actually going to have some pre-made stuff, and then I'll just explain. Alright, so yeah, so as you can see, you can walk around, and there's all these grass blocks and stuff, and then there's other blocks beneath them. There are trees in the background, and occasionally some tall grass on the grass blocks themselves. Of course, there's this village. There are some tiles that I can jump on, some that are in the background. And then if I go over here, there's just a few other things in this map. So I'm just going to show you on the map, really, right now. So I can just sort of jump around this mountain, and there's a tower over here. You can just sort of platform around on the tower. And yeah, so now I'm just gonna explain how this all works. So where should I start? Let's see. Alright, so last episode I tried to fix, and yeah, you can see all the different objects that I've added. A lot of them don't have much code in them, but there are a lot of new objects. Alright, so last episode I tried fixing some collision bugs, but it was actually still possible to get stuck if you actually played the downloaded game file. You may have been able to get stuck in walls, and that is not a good thing. So what I've done is I've actually done some research, and I've found some really good collision detection. And this works really well. There are a few shaky points, but yeah, I'm just going to explain how this works. So I'm not using the h-speed variable anymore. I've sort of coded my own manual h-speed. So what I've done is I have two variables for like horizontal speed, and then also I have the same thing for vertical speed, pretty much. But I have a hscalc, or like hspeed calc variable, and this is what gets added to, subtracted from, to go left and right. I have made one change with the friction mechanic. I explained how you can multiply your speed by a decimal, and that'll make it slowly slow down, simulating friction. But I've made a special change, which is that instead of having it as if not keyboard check VK right and not keyboard check VK left, basically what I've done is that if you don't have if you're not pressing the right key, but you're still currently going to the right, indicated by h speed of a horizontal speed that's greater than 0, or if you're not pressing the left key but you're still going left, which is horizontal speed of less than 0, then they will basically do their own independent friction. So what this means is that if you actually, if you're going to the right, for example, and you're pressing the right arrow, and then you suddenly release that and go to the left, it will do its own. There will be friction, because under the old code, it would test if you're not pressing keyboard check. It would test if you're not pressing the right key, and it would test if you're not pressing the left key. And if you went straight to pressing the left key without releasing the right key, friction wouldn't take effect. So you'd sort of swing around a lot. But this makes it a little easier to just go back and forth. Hopefully you understood that and I explained it correctly. Anyway, so what I have now is I have another variable, hs, and this is the real sort of h-speed, and I set that to round hscalc, and round hscalc just sort of makes this a whole number, no longer a decimal. So then I have my maximum speeds, which is 3. And then I have my jumping mechanics. So basically what I've done is, for the jumping, all I've done is I've basically replaced all instances of v-speed with vs, and all instances of h-speed in the code with hs. And it pretty much is exactly the same. As you can see, you jump by setting your v-speed to -4, which is up, and there's gravity down here because it adds 0.1 to your h-speed every step that you're not on a block. So yeah, and then right here I have basically, you probably noticed when I was jumping around in the game, that when I was going up, here I'll just show you. Alright, so if I run the game real quick, let's just wait a bit. As you can see, I have this falling sprite. So when I press jump, as you can see, I have an up sprite, a middle sprite that is going for just a few frames, and then I have a down sprite. And then this is basically put into action with this one line of code. So if I'm going up, which is if I'm going down right here with the v-speed greater than 0, then the sprite index equals this falling sprite. Otherwise, the sprite index equals this up jumping sprite. And then out in the front here, I basically have if round v-speed equals 0, then sprite index equals this middle sprite that you may have seen for a few frames. And this is basically I'm just testing if the if the v-speed is is in a range of decimals so that it rounds to 0. So it's not a very large v-speed in either direction. Then it has this middle sprite. Alright, so the actual collision scripts are these two right here. And the basic advantage of them is that instead of being a big rectangle hitbox, what they are is they're basically checking every single pixel of movement. So the way they work is, first you have a repeat block here. You have and it repeats the following code by a number of times equal to your current v-speed. And then there's it takes the absolute value of that to make sure it doesn't repeat a negative number of times, because you can't really repeat something a negative number of times. And then it uses this special seal function, which stands for ceiling, and it's basically what it is it's another round function, but it always rounds up. So 0.1 will not round to 0 like it normally would. It would round to 1 because that's the closest number. That's the closest whole number above it. So basically, just rounds it up no matter what. So basically, it repeats this your v-speed or speed number of times, basically, and then it uses this other function, place meeting, which is sort of like a single point collision. So it tests if it collides at your x plus. It basically tests a point of your x and y. And your y is added to by the sine of your vertical speed. And what sine does is basically, if you have a negative number, sine of that number will be -1. If you have a positive number, sine of that number will be +1. And if you have 0, then sine of that number will be 0. And then it tests if it collides with a wall parent. And so if it has that collision, which is basically, if you have a v-speed that is positive, it will be testing 1 pixel above you, or really below you, because y gets more positive as it goes down. But if you have a v-speed that's negative, it's going to be testing a value like slightly above you. So this is basically like a 1 pixel, sort of a 1 pixel ahead collision test. And so if it collides, then your vertical speed is set to 0. Here I basically set that if you have, because this is sort of your collision, I've set that your sprite gets reset so that you don't have these falling sprites all the time. So when you land, you go back to your default sprite. And otherwise, your y is added to by the sine of your vertical speed. And remember that this repeats your vertical speed number of times. So if your vertical speed is 4, then and you don't collide with this, then it will repeat adding 1 4 times. So you're basically going to be going 4 each step. Now I'm running out of time here, and I can review this next video. But yeah, see you next time, you.